Right. I think all of us are very keen to be able to detect deception when it's happening. Is there a marked difference between deception in writing and speaking?
In writing, it's easier to discern because you go slowly and carefully. It can take time. I once had a seminar interrupted by a cold case detective who wanted me to analyze a 911 call or 999 call,
right,
regarding a murder-suicide. And I had said I'd be glad to do it, but when I get back home, I'll do it. And he said, oh, we'd like you to do it now. And it became kind of a back and forth. I said, it's a 2-minute phone call. It might take 6 hours of work to do. And because it's in writing, and I don't listen to the audio,
right,
just the words chosen. And a man had reported coming home and finding his girlfriend and her son dead from an apparent murder-suicide. So I did it with the group, and there was probably, it was a large class, maybe 35 or 40 detectives, many with lots of experience in homicide investigations. These people were good. And I concluded saying, this guy is deceptive. He is the killer. And the cold case investigator who had the file and hadn't shared it said, are you sure about that? I said, yeah, I bet my life on it. Something foolish like that. He said, well, just so you know, he did pass his polygraph. He was very cooperative. And I have a lot of confidence in polygraph when administered properly.
right.
And the coroner is satisfied with the blood spatter and the evidence saying that was murder-suicide. And I said, he's lying. I begin with the analysis saying this person is telling the truth and he didn't do it. He talked me out of that position. And so what happened was he said, could you write to the coroner, because the district attorney, the prosecutor, will not reopen this case unless the coroner is willing to change his finding from the murder-suicide to homicide unknown. So I wrote a short report explaining the principles that I followed in the analysis. The coroner then said, okay, that makes sense to me. So I'm going to change it to homicide unknown. The DA then reopened the case and an investigation began, and we ended up getting a conviction.
Wow.
It wasn't terribly challenging.
Wow. Wow. Now, of course, you've analysed a number of very famous people, including the Kate and Jerry McCann. And you very kindly, I sent you a quote from Rachel Oldfield, who was one of the Tapper 7. And this is Babs one from Twitter on the McCann hashtag. And I noticed that she tweeted it yesterday, and I asked you if you'd be kind enough to look at it for us. And you said it was a good one to look at. And if I may read it, and if you could give me some feedback on it, because it's been very interesting, even though, of course, Kate and Jerry McCann have been analysed extensively by yourself, those around Madeleine's disappearance have not. And Rachel Oldfield, of course, was one of the people on holiday with Kate and Jerry McCann at the time, with her own child and her partner. And Rachel said in a police statement, anyone with an ounce of common sense really would be able to see that they couldn't have done it. I was there and I know that they didn't do it. And Babs was asking, I know they didn't do it. I was there. Where is there? And what does she mean by do what? And I think I'd like to know that answer as well, Peter. Any idea?
Sure. I have the rest of it. I could read it still. It says, is this the reply where she says, yeah, I was just going to say that, Kate and Jerry are both doctors?
Yes, that's right. And if there was a problem, we'd be able to revive a child. So, but I can read you this quote again. And that is, anyone with an ounce of common sense really would be able to see that they couldn't have done it. So that statement, first of all.
Okay, so there's an element of weakness. Instead of saying they didn't do it, well, how do you know that? I know them. They didn't do it. A type of, we call it a psychological wall of truth. And this could be a wall of belief on the speaker's part that is so strong that they cannot entertain any possibility of it happening. So it's not that they wouldn't or couldn't, they didn't. She doesn't bring herself to say that.
Right, interesting. And then she follows that by saying, I was there and I know that they didn't do it. So is that still part of the same weakness?
Yes, I'd like to know, where were you and what they didn't do, as you just asked me before. Was this their quote, the same person speaking afterwards with about both being doctors and ethics and?
Yes, and yes, that's right. Because we're all doctors there, she said. If anything had happened to Madeline, we would be able to revive her. Or there were 6 doctors there. Yeah.
This one's fascinating. Yeah, I was going to say that, Kate and Jerry are both doctors, so we note that they're doctors, and that there were 3 other medics, second reference to a medical professional, in the group. 4 others, actually, 4 others, so if by any chance they'd accidentally done anything to Madeline. So the first thing I'll note is that the reason they couldn't have done it is because they're doctors. Then I note that she is willing to allow for a possibility of them doing something.
Right.
That is not the psychological wall of resistance that we look for in someone with a strong conviction.
Right.
As a matter of fact, the conclusion was a little bit comical with this one. We do flag the increase of the use of the word sorry, just for the possibility. It could be politeness, and it could be some kind of regret coming out there.
Right.
Latently. They wouldn't have just left her and sort of tried to cover it up. And I found that terribly fascinating, because that's exactly what they did do, just to go to dinner.
Right. They did just leave her.
Yes. And so this is what's on her mind as she's making this defensive statement.